He accidentally discovered his wife's secret. In their wedding photo, her two fingers were overlapped, a gesture that meant she was asking God for forgiveness. This implied that their marriage wasn't real. The next day, Truman didn't confront her. Instead, he wanted to test what she was hiding. As she was leaving the house, Truman casually made a remark.
I'll cross my fingers for you.
His wife froze for a moment, but quickly recovered, flashing him a practiced smile before heading off to work. Determined to uncover the truth, Truman secretly followed her to the hospital where she worked. A nurse blocked his way, preventing him from going any further. Left with no choice, he turned around and walked away. But it was just a trick. Truman doubled back and followed the nurse. Just then, a man in a wheelchair suddenly rushed toward him, seemingly trying to stop him. Truman easily dodged and finally reached the operating room where his wife was assisting in surgery. What awaited him was a poorly staged performance. The lead surgeon was about to make an incision when the supposedly anesthetized patient suddenly sat up. Truman witnessed the bizarre scene, but this discovery was only the tip of the iceberg. As it turned out, Truman had been born into a massive, custom-built film set, Seahaven Island. 5,000 cameras recorded his life around the clock. Millions of people had witnessed his birth. Every move he made was broadcast live. There were no secrets. For 30 years, Truman had lived under the watchful eye of hidden cameras. The show was called The Truman Show. Everyone around him, except Truman himself, was an actor. Even his wife was part of the production. The director embedded advertisements into the products she bought.
It's a chef's pal. It's a dicer, grater, peeler all in one. Never needs sharpening, dishwasher safe.
That's amazing!
Then, one morning, a stage light fell from the sky, crashing onto the ground. Truman picked it up and instinctively looked up, but saw nothing unusual. Soon after, a radio news report explained that a plane had malfunctioned, causing parts to fall. So, Truman didn't think much of it, but Truman had his own secret. At work, he often made secret phone calls, trying to learn about a place called Fiji, and about a woman named Sylvia. Yet, every time, he found nothing. One day, Truman spotted a pair of eyes in a magazine. Making sure no one was watching, he tore out the page. Just then, his boss assigned him to a job on a nearby island. Truman hesitated. He seemed reluctant to go there, but his boss warned him. If he refused, he might lose his job. Wanting to keep his stable position, Truman headed to the dock, but when he reached a sunken boat, his legs went weak. He couldn't overcome his fear. It was all part of the show's design. Years ago, Truman had been out at sea with his father when a storm hit. His father fell overboard, drowning before Truman's eyes. Since then, Truman had been terrified of the water, and now he backed down again. Truman had a best friend, Marlin. One day, he suddenly told Marlin that he wanted to quit his job and move to the other side of the world, Fiji. But what Truman didn't know was that his so-called best friend was just another actor. Later, Truman shared his plan with his wife, but she dismissed it, saying it was time for them to have a baby.
This'll pass. We all think like this now and then. Let's get you out of these wet clothes. Come to bed.
Then, something happened that made Truman question everything. On his way to work, he saw a familiar yet distant figure. It was his father. Before Truman could react, staff members rushed in, quickly escorting the man away. Truman tried to chase after them, but a group of people blocked his path. That night, he opened his old treasure chest and pulled out a bag. Inside was a red sweater. Years ago, during a school event, a girl named Sylvia had entered Truman's life, but the show had already planned everything for him. One day, Truman ran into Sylvia at the library. This time, he gathered his courage and asked her out. To his surprise, she agreed, but insisted they leave immediately. Otherwise, he'd never get another chance. Truman didn't understand, but something about her eyes stayed with him. Sylvia took Truman and ran, escaping the cameras. They made it to the beach. There, Truman had his first kiss, but soon, the show's staff found them. Sylvia tried to explain everything to Truman.
Listen to me. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows everything you do. They're pretending, Truman. Do you understand? Everybody's pretending.
I don't know.
No. My name's not Lauren. It's Sylvia. My name's Sylvia. Yeah.
Honey.
He's lying.
Honey, please.
Truman, please. Don't listen to him. Everything I've told you is the truth.
Please.
It's fake. It's all for you.
I don't
And
understand.
the sky and the
Come on,
sea,
honey.
everything. It's a set.
I don't
It's a
believe.
show. Everybody's
You'll be all right.
watching you. Please, don't
Please,
listen to him.
Lauren.
He's gonna lie to you. Watch this
going
right
on?
now. Get out of here. Come on, find me.
Don't worry.
A man claiming to be her father appeared and dragged her away. He told Truman that they were moving to the other side of the world, Fiji. After that, Truman never saw Sylvia again. Her red sweater was the only proof that she had ever existed, and Fiji became the place he longed to go. On the back of his wife's photo, Truman had collected magazine clippings. He tried to piece them together to recreate Sylvia's face. Meanwhile, Sylvia had never given up on Truman. Truman's awakening began with a radio malfunction. One day, the show's staff accidentally broadcast their communication over Truman's car radio. He heard them predicting his every move before he even made it. This led to an accident. Realizing the mistake, the production team quickly changed the frequency. Then, a news broadcast explained that the interference had come from a police radio. But Truman no longer believed their explanations. On his way to work, he saw a newspaper headline about Sea Haven cracking down on vagrants. It seemed like an attempt to convince him that the man he had seen wasn't his father. Truman slowly began to realize everything around him was a lie.